In a minor German duchy, far from the splendor of great courts, a princess learned that duty mattered more than grandeur. Music became her refuge, a language that would later bridge the gap between stranger and queen. The proposal came without warning. Marry King George III of Britain, a man she'd never met, and leave everything behind at 17. She said goodbye to her homeland, knowing she might never return. The crossing took days of violent seas. She used the time to master the language of her new kingdom. England appeared through the mist, a powerful island that would be her prison and her purpose. London received her with spectacle, but she had only hours to prepare for the most important meeting of her life. Strangers adorned her like a doll, each jewel a weight, each layer a barrier between the girl she was and the queen she must become. They were both terrified. He, a shy king of 23. She, a foreign girl who spoke broken English. Yet something gentle passed between them. She married him at midnight, still wearing her travel-stained clothes beneath the ceremonial robes. By morning, she was Queen of Britain. The crown weighed 4 pounds. She would carry its burden for 57 years. In public, they learned to perform unity. In private, they began to build something real. The court judged everything. Her accent, her clothes, her German manners. She studied them as they studied her in the gardens, away from ceremony. She discovered her husband was kind, curious, and as lonely as she was. Within months, she carried the heir to the throne. Her duty was clear: survive childbirth and give England its future. She gave birth before an audience as custom demanded. The future George IV came screaming into a room of strangers. Against all advice, she insisted on knowing her children. 15 would follow, each one a victory over death. George bought her Buckingham House as a private retreat. She made it a home, not a palace. By 30, she had 9 children. The royal nursery was her kingdom within a kingdom. She ran the royal household like her mother ran Myro, with discipline, efficiency, and unexpected warmth. She never forgot being a powerless girl. Her charities focused on children, education, and women without protection. She collected plants as others collected jewels. The bird of paradise flower bears her name, Strelitzia regini. She patronized artists and musicians, bringing culture to a court known more for politics than beauty. When Mozart came to London, she greeted him in his language and played duets with the child prodigy. The American rebellion darkened her husband's moods. She could only watch as his empire began to crack. When political defeats wounded him, she became his anchor, the one person who saw the man beneath the crown. She demanded her daughters be educated like princes. They learned languages, science, and arts, preparation for lives that would never come. George refused to let their daughters marry and leave. They became prisoners of love, aging spinsters in gilded rooms at Windsor. She created routines that gave structure to chaos. Fixed mealtimes, morning prayers, evening music. In 1788, madness came. The king she loved disappeared into raving confusion, and she was helpless. They bound him like an animal. She was barred from his presence. The doctors called it treatment. She called it torture. Parliament prepared to give her eldest son the throne. The Prince of Wales, who despised her, would control her life. After 5 months, he returned to himself. Their reunion was tender, but trust had fractured. Madness could return any time. Britain celebrated the king's recovery. Charlotte smiled for the public while privately grieving the man he'd been. After his illness, they lived separately. The easy intimacy died. What remained was duty and the memory of love. When the French queen fell to the guillotine, Charlotte saw her own mortality. Crowns offered no protection from rage. Her sons went to war. For the first time, she understood mothers who sent boys to die for king and country. Amelia, her youngest and most beloved, died slowly of tuberculosis. Charlotte watched helplessly as disease took what armies could not. When Amelia died at 27, something broke in Charlotte. But she had no time to grieve. George was collapsing again. This time, the madness didn't lift. George III disappeared into permanent darkness, and Charlotte lost her husband forever. Her son became Prince Regent. The prince she'd birthed before strangers now ruled in his father's place. The Prince Regent exiled her to Windsor. Once the center of a large family, she now lived in near solitude. She visited George though he couldn't recognize her. She spoke of their youth, their children, their gardens. Monologues to a ghost and letters to Germany, she poured out her loneliness. Only in her mother tongue could she be fully herself. Her granddaughter Charlotte brought joy, a bright girl who reminded her of herself at that age, full of hope. When her granddaughter died giving birth, the succession fell into chaos. Charlotte saw herself in that young body. All the births she'd survived by luck alone. At 74, her body finally surrendered. Dropsy swelled her limbs. Every breath was labor. She insisted on one final portrait. "Let them remember a queen," she said, "not an invalid." She tried to make peace with her eldest son. But decades of mutual disappointment couldn't be healed in a deathbed scene. Her spinster daughters gathered around her. She'd failed to free them from their father's possessiveness, and that failure haunted her last days. She woke knowing death was near. 57 years of duty were ending. She requested simplicity. No grand spectacle. Let the money go to orphans and hospitals instead. Her sons came. These men who'd caused her such worry now stood as boys before their dying mother as death approached. She saw him as he was, the shy young king who'd held her hand on her wedding night. She asked after George, though he lived in madness 3 miles away. Perhaps she believed they'd meet again, both restored. She prayed in English and German both, her 2 languages, her 2 selves merging at the end to her eldest son. She